It is almost getting impressive how many documents Joe can just, keep lying around in different places and nobody really seeming to care all that much. Oh, sure, there's a probe that's going to be going on, but hey, man, don't worry about it. Just like the garage, my house was also locked up, so nobody could have came in and fiddled around with my classified documents, bro. Yeah, come on now. We know exactly what's going on here. Okay, I posited the idea the last time we talked about this. Okay, this is going to be one of those investigations where it's like, yep, no, we went through and we took a look, man. We went through with a fine-tooth comb because we got to be partisan on this one. This is the Department of Justice I'm talking about. Okay, we got to take all of these accusations very seriously on both sides. Okay, and we combed through vigorously all of the documents that we had on Joe Biden and found out that he did absolutely nothing wrong. So you can go ahead and you can trust our judgment because, oh, that's our guy right there. We raked him over the coals, and yep, so you can go ahead and totally believe us when we go through all of the stuff that we found at Mar-a-Lago. Trust me, much more nefarious acts that were going on down there. It's like, it's so obvious at this point. Okay, so what do we have? Okay, because I said before, we've also seen the timeline because apparently the Department of Justice was made aware of these documents back in November, so they know everything apparently, and they're just drip feeding us information. And it took you how long to come forward in order to create this special master? What's his name? Old Dick Herr there, little Asian guy, combing through everything. And yeah, I'm sure this is really gonna come back, and oh yeah, this is gonna be the thing where they're gonna be replacing Joe because all of the black hats are fighting against the white hats. They're just gonna. It's like, come on now, it's not that serious in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, I know it's like it's classified documents and stuff like that, and the vice president doesn't have declassification authority. I know all that stuff. I've talked about it before at length, okay? Just don't think that this is some sort of 5D chess move by the deep state aficionados that are out there, bro. It's not that serious. It really isn't. This is just another one of those, ooh, take a look at the things that are happening in the government. Meanwhile, there are more tangible, actionable things happening right now. But for the sake of keeping up on everything, we'll go over all of the new revelations that were discovered. I think this came out yesterday or something like that. I just didn't have space enough to cover it. So, hey, getting around to it today. All right. So, additional classified documents had been found at President Joe Biden's Delaware home in the White House, or the White House said on January 14th. Yeah, so this happened yesterday, but they were discovered back in November. So yeah, they were there, I guess. Biden's personal attorney. Why does the president have a personal attorney? And who's paying for that? Well, it's the taxpayers anyways, because Joe Biden gets $360,000 a year to vacation 40% of the time. Anyways, found one document on January 11th, and Richard Sauber. Oh, so they actually did find something more recently, because the garage stuff and the Penn Center stuff was all found November 2nd, if I remember the date correctly. I know it's early November, but it's the first, second, or third. It's one of those days. It was just before the midterms, and they kept that stuff nice and quiet, right? 6 pages, all bearing classification markings. Okay, so it's one document, but it's 6 pages, and they all had classification markings. Okay. This should be cut and dry, like slam dunk, okay? Because the vice president, remember, the vice president. Now, this, depending on the date, okay, this could be actual presidential documents, okay? And he could, in some way or another, declassify these documents. And we know, God knows, he spends enough time up in Delaware, so this could 1000% be the case that when he got flued out to Delaware, he took some stuff with him and he did a little homework back at the villa on the hill. Okay, totally could happen, right? Or is it a hell of a lot more likely that some of that garage stuff found its way into the house? Because, come on now, he's not thumbing through stuff while he's sitting on the tailgate of his Corvette. We know this, okay? Or the rear bumper. The cars don't have tailgates. Sorry, I grew up around trucks, okay? Jeez, anyways. 6 pages, all bearing classification markings, and stored in a room adjacent to the garage at Biden's home were found during a search, Sauber said in a statement. The president's personal attorneys discovered one document with classified marking consisting of 1 page in a room adjacent to the garage. At that point, the president's personal attorneys stopped searching the immediate area where the documents were found. Yeah, they didn't want to find anything else, okay? I went to Wilmington Thursday. Oh, I'm sure it was nice. How was the weather? Had to facilitate providing the document to the Justice Department. See, just because we have it, we turned it over. There's nothing to see here. Don't worry about it. 5 additional pages with classification markings were discovered among the material with it. Oh, for a total of 6 pages. Oh, because you said it was just 1, and then you clarified it with, it's like actually 6, but don't worry about it. Biden's personal attorneys have been helping search the Penn Biden Center in Biden's Delaware home after classified documents were found at the president's previous offices and home. The attorneys, who don't have active security clearances, very funny. Oh, we found these classified documents, and we facilitated the transfer with the Department of Justice. You don't have security clearance. And technically, neither does Vice President Biden. We'll halt the search and notify the DOJ once they find a document with classified markings. Yeah, we just turned it face down so nobody could see what was on there. Sauber reiterated on January 14th that the White House would cooperate with the special counsel investigating the matter. Oh, of course. Updates come 2 days after discovery. Yeah, of course, man. And how much more information is still waiting to be drip-fed? That's what I want to know. The latest disclosure is in addition to the discovery of documents found in December in Biden's garage. Oh, so garage stuff was in December. That was after the midterms, but we're in the middle of January. Okay, cool. And November in, yes, the Penn Center, or the Penn Biden Center in Washington, right? Geez, need to get that very cumbersome name correct. From his time as vice president, yes. Apparent mishandling of classified documents. Oh, who hasn't done that before? It's not really that concerning for anybody who has a Democrat badge, okay? Don't worry about it. But for the orange man, that's terrible. That's treasonous, in fact, I've heard. But yeah, he's under investigation by former U.S. Attorney Robert Hur. Oh, damn it. I thought it was Richard Hur. My mistake. So it's not Dick Hur, which I definitely would have made a Dicker joke at the time if it was. So my mistake. Sorry, my Asian friend, who was appointed as special counsel on January 12th. After they've known for months that Biden had classified information at different places where he wasn't allowed to have classified information. Nothing funny about that at all whatsoever. Of course not. So, what do other Democrats have to say about this? Because they've been awfully quiet. So, good old Debbie Stabenow, the one who's retiring out there, okay? She had a couple of things to say about this, okay? And she had very scathing critique of one of her fellow co-workers and now her de facto boss. It's embarrassing. Oh, great. Thanks for your insight. Glad people could have funded your lifestyle for the past 4 decades at this point in time. Jeez. Old Margaret Thatcher head. Debbie Stabenow conceded Sunday that it's embarrassing that President Joe Biden was in possession of classified documents, but asserted that his situation is different than former President Donald Trump's. I agree, but for very different reasons. It's certainly embarrassing, she said. Oh, it was early. It was on Meet the Press today. How wonderful. Does anybody watch that stuff? Like, I don't even know, man. It's oftentimes I reference Meet the Press, Sunday morning on ABC This Morning, Fox Sunday morning. It's like all of those morning talk shows. Did just politicos watch this stuff? Because I did. Outside of like egregious clips, does anybody watch this stuff? Is this even real? What's happening? It's embarrassing that you would find a small number of documents. It's like, it's embarrassing if I kill one person, but it's not as egregious as like blowing up a stadium of people, okay? It's not the same. Certainly not on purpose. Oh, of course she can ascribe intent because we know Joe. Everybody knows Joe. Joe's a good guy. They don't think it's the right thing, and they have moving to correct it, working with the Department of Justice, working with everyone involved with the archives. What a bunch of fluff. Oh my God. Remember, there's a timeline you can go very easily reference with Trump, and they were doing exactly the same thing. And it's like, oh, if you want to keep stuff at Mar-a-Lago, just put like a padlock on the door and don't worry about it. It'll be great until a certain point in time when it was no longer fine. Okay. It's one of those moments that obviously they wish hadn't happened. Yes, the improper storage of classified documents. It's almost like it would be a crime for anybody other than Joe Biden. A member of the Senate Democrat leadership, Stabenow, then asserted without evidence that GOP-led investigation into Biden would cause problems for the U.S. economy. Yo, that's one of them big brain takes, okay? Maybe that's why she needs so much hair, because she has just such a massive brain that it would be just a little bit disruptive. It would be disruptive to the United States economy to have such a gigantic galaxy brain senator that she just needs the old Thatcher wig to put on top of it. Okay, so let's hear her now on this one. What I'm most concerned about, this is the kind of thing that the Republicans love. No, okay, for as much fabricated rivalry between Republicans and Democrats, can we call it that? Is that, has that been decided yet? Okay. I think the Republicans, as much as they would like to take over any sort of leadership in either the different houses from the Democrats, okay, they would also like a president that isn't a criminal. I'm just throwing that out there. Let's talk about investigations. Let's create chaos. Let's not talk about the fact that we have manufacturing renaissance going on in this country. What are you talking about? More jobs created. Well, that's what you reported. And then you had to release the little correction where, yeah, I know we said that we created like 1 million jobs, but it was like 10,000. Don't worry about it. It's close, though. We're creating so many jobs, and government's creating jobs. No, private industry creates jobs. And if you have a bigger government, that just means that more people need to be subservient to the government. So the only way that you can continue to create those jobs is to have a bigger government. And, oh, I see what you're trying to do here. But a manufacturing renaissance? What are you talking about? You guys just, signed that stupid CHIPS Act, right? Not saying that's bad or anything like that. And that's great that you can do some manufacturing of goods on United States soil. It's just, why did you need to pass an act for that when you could have just allowed private industry? You could have incentivized industry in order to come over here and create manufacturing that way. Whereas Trump, okay, for the actual beginning of this so-called renaissance, he slashed different regulations on different manufacturing places, and he was actually bringing jobs back. But by you creating a supply chain problem, or for the fact that there is even a supply chain problem, probably just puts into focus there is a significant manufacturing problem within the confines of the country. I'm just saying, if you need to ship in a bunch of different stuff, that means that you are not properly equipped in order to manufacture the stuff appropriate for your own people. Just saying. But yeah, it's much easier to say there's a renaissance, we're creating jobs. And what else are you guys doing? Lower unemployment rate. Then what? What are you talking about? Oh, when you guys your party decided to shut down all of your states until after an election occurred. Wow, and then you just opened everything up again. Wow, and then you could just drip feed that, and it's like, oh, it was at record highs, but then it dropped. It's kind of like how Joe continues to run out every once in a while and says, oh, gas prices are lower than they've been at their peak. When was their peak? Summer of 2021, but now it's like $2 lower. But still, if you take a look at it, it's still double, triple, quadruple that of any of the median prices during the Trump administration. But don't worry, it's low for his presidential stay so far. Very interesting. We just go ahead and create our own metrics. It makes us look good. Don't think too hard about it. Lower unemployment rate and higher wages. How do you substantiate any of that? Higher wages by what? Forcing more companies, more businesses to raise the minimum wage, therefore creating fewer jobs that can actually be paid for? Like, what are we talking about here? And what Republicans are proposing to do would interfere with that. Investigating a criminal, like, you can walk and chew gum at the same time, okay? But I understand maybe if you chew gum, you just get it in that beautiful, beautiful mane that you have. It would really put us on the edge economically. Listen, Joe is such an economic mastermind that if you distract him one bit, this entire Jenga tower that is our economy is just going to fall by the wayside. So at the same time, is it a strong, roaring economy, or is it on the brink of collapse if just one docile old man just temporarily gets put on the back foot? Like, what are we dealing with here? Republican leaders, including House Oversight Committee James Comer. Speaking of our dude right here, the Comer says that Biden should release visitor logs for chief executives to his Wilmington, Delaware home. I didn't think about this, okay? Biden He gets flued out to his Delaware home quite a lot. And like I said, multiple times over. And you can go ahead and you can fact check this if you don't believe me. 40% of the time, Joe Biden has been on vacation during his presidency. And a substantial amount of that time is spent out in Delaware. Okay, between Delaware and Camp David. If you go and take a look, and I don't know, there might be different rules and regulations for if you can have classified documents at Camp David. It is United States government residence, so I don't know. I don't think the jurisdiction there could be a little bit sketchy. Don't know that entirely for sure. But there are visitor logs, and Biden does, and it's documented that he does business up there in Delaware. He meets with, well, okay, we know for sure he's met with Ukrainian and Chinese diplomats up there in Delaware, okay? What's not to say, hey, Ping, you want to come take a look at my Corvette? Just don't mind any of those documents in the boxes back there. Don't worry about that, but I got a cool ride. You want to come see it? What's not to say he hasn't done that, okay? What has he compromised with his willy-nilly storage tactics? Any sort of economic secrets? Maybe that's what Debbie Stabenow was talking about, okay? But let's see what old Coom Dog here has to say about this. House Committee on Oversight and Accountability Chairman James Comer is demanding that President Joe Biden make public the visitor logs for the chief executive's Wilmington, Delaware residence, as well as documents and communications about the properties and locations searched, including the identities of the Biden aides conducting the searches. Yeah, you don't even have to make them public. Just make them available to the investigators. That's what I'd like, okay? At least. If you want to make them public, hey, man, I don't really care. I'll look at them. I don't think it'll be all that interesting outside of, wow, you mate with that many Chinese diplomats and that many people from Burisma. Weird. In a January 15th letter to the White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain, Comer said President Biden's mishandling of classified materials raises the issues of whether he has jeopardized our national security. That's normally what you'd associate with the misappropriation and the mishandling of classified documents, so makes sense. Without a list of individuals who have visited his residence, the American people will never know who had access to these highly sensitive documents. The Oversight Committee demands transparency to whatever any individuals with foreign connections to the Biden family gained access to President Biden's residence and the classified documents that he has mishandled for years. The committee is also concerned that White House aides and President Biden's personal attorneys searched the Wilmington residence, knowing that the Department of Justice was already investigating the matter. Yeah, that also raises another concern as well. It's like, okay, cool. So, I don't know if Joe necessarily remembers that he took those classified documents, but they've known since November that there are a few kicking around. Is it that far of a stretch to think that, maybe in one of those old storage boxes back there at the, just in the back corner of the locked garage? Okay, there might be some goofy documents kicking around back there, especially when there was an open investigation. Yeah, you're going to go check his think tank office, but you're not going to connect the dots and think that, maybe somebody would be taking some stuff home and, if we need to go ahead and collect everything else because the National Archive, they know exactly what's out at the time. You could probably connect the dots. I'm just wondering. And that's kind of what James Comer is wondering as well, and especially if he's going to be the one running the investigation, or at least being a part of it. I'm sure he'd like to know who has been in and outside of the premises wherever classified documents have been found, because, hey man, not saying he was out there handing them out like coasters, okay? He wasn't using top secret documents to make sure there wasn't a ring on any end table. But it's reasonable speculation. If you're going to go kick down doors in Mar-a-Lago, the least you can do is make transparent who had access and who was nosing around the Biden residencies. So, till we have more information on this topic, which I'm most certain there will be at some point in time. That's all she wrote. I'm sure Joe is probably, I was going to say mulling over whatever he's going to be saying, but that would imply that he had a thought between his ears, but we all know that's not the case. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.